What is going on? Justin here from Bonafide Fishing. I've got the new RVR119 out in front of me. This is going to be a two-part series. So in part one, in this video, I will cover how to install the steering kit, which is going to be necessary to operate a Torqeedo. In the second video, part two, I'm going to go over how to install our Torqeedo mount on the stern of the RVR119, and then how to attach the entire unit, where to place your battery, and put your lift and lower line. Going forward, we're going to give you two different options in installing your internal Spectre cabling. One with the traditional tubing that's included in our kit, or with the newly designed bushings that essentially replace the internal tubing. It's a whole lot easier of an install, but depending on what sort of body of water that you fish might determine whether you use the bushings or the tubing. I'd say the biggest difference between the two installs is with the tubing, you're not going to have any exit points for water to potentially get inside of your kayak because you're running the entire length of the boat. Now, functionality wise, performance wise, they're pretty identical. With the bushings, however, you're going to get a very nice clean look. It's going to look OEM, and it's going to be a whole lot easier and quicker. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys on which method you would like to go with, but today I'm going to do both. For the first install, let's go ahead and knock out our new bushings. I'll show you how quick this actually is. We only have to drill 2 holes, so you're going to need a 3/16 inch drill bit as well as a 3/8. So our drill points are pretty easy to identify. I've got a flat surface right before each foot brace. I'm going to take my 3/16 inch drill bit first and go directly center. And then I'm going to come in right behind it with my 3/8 inch drill bit and hollow that out. Now let's come do the same thing in the stern. And you'll notice there's some really nice winged exit points, so we're just going to drill directly center of this flat surface here. Before we install the bushings, let's run our Spectre cord first. This is going to give us a larger entry and exit point, especially in the stern. Since we do have those winged flanges, it's going to be a little bit harder to get that Spectre cable all the way up to that bushing. But if we leave it out, it's going to help us in the long run. I'm going to start by trying to straight out the Spectre cord and get it unwrinkled, and then just shimmy it all the way down to the back. The great thing about the Spectre cord is that it is rigid enough to shimmy all the way to the back of the kayak, but if you wanted to use a tent pole or something along these lines, you most certainly can to make it easier on yourself. Now that the access plate is removed, I can work on finding my Spectre cable, which I can see it right here. And then I'm going to feed it through the hole that we just drilled. We got the Spectre cord run, pretty easy process. Now it's time to install the bushings. If you want to put just like a touch of marine sealant on this thing, if it makes you feel warm and fuzzy, it's not necessary. I'm not going to do it today because it's got a pretty tight fit, and I think it'll be just fine. Before I even think about running this tubing, I'm gonna make it a whole lot easier on myself and go ahead and mushroom cap one side. So I've got a 9/64 inch drill bit here. You might not need it. And then I've got a butane torch. I've got it on a low setting. If you have a lighter, that is preferable. And I've also got a scrap piece of marine board that I'm going to use to help me flatten out that mushroom cap. So I'm going to take some heat and I'm going to apply it low and slow, going directly down the center of the tube. And you'll notice it's going to naturally just want to kind of fall outward on itself. So you're just kind of having to expedite that process just a little bit with the heat. And then once you feel like you're in a pretty good spot with it, you can flatten it out just like that. And then if you feel like your hole is closing in on you, you can take your drill bit, make sure that it still passes through. We are good to go. So now let's drill out our holes, same locations, this time using the 3/16 inch drill bit. And then same exact thing in the stern as well. So to route your tubing, I'm gonna go the easiest route. We have these things around here, we call these tent poles. I don't know if it's a tent pole or not, honestly, have no clue what it is. But this is definitely the easiest route. You could use maybe some copper wiring, anything to straighten this cable out so you can get it back to the stern. On the RVR119, however, you do have a nice access hatch on the right-hand side of the paddler. So you probably could thread it through and then manually get it back down there, or maybe attach a weight or something to the line and shimmy it back to the stern. But I'm gonna do it this way. This is gonna be quicker. So I'm gonna take the end that I just mushroom capped, and I'm gonna thread this bad boy through. Hopefully it's long enough. We'll see. And then just come down here to that first hole that we drilled by the foot brace, and then shimmy it on back down. And I've got my access hatch open right now so I can see my line going back, and I can redirect it if needed. I've got my tubing through the access hatch, and I'm gonna attach some weight. So I've got some channel locks here just to keep this from coming back through. I'm just gonna hold it down just like that, and then I'm gonna take the pole out of the tube. And then I found the easiest way to get it through here is take a peace sign. Don't pay any attention to my broken finger. Take a peace sign, put it through the peace sign, and then come back through here, thumb outside of the access hatch, and it should want to go right in. Just like that. I'm gonna add just a little bit of marine sealant, marine goo, whatever. This is that good. This is SB190, and this thing comes out like a freaking fire hose if I'm not careful. So I'm just gonna add just a little touch. All right, and then just pull it back flush until it's seated, and you can wipe off any excess. And here comes the tricky part with the tubing. You're gonna take those channel locks that we just had and apply some pressure, so pull it out about an inch. So not too far. And then take your channel locks, place them directly up against the kayak to hold that tension down, just like that. We've got one shot at this, let's make it count. So go out about an inch away from the channel locks. Okay, go ahead and cut that off, just like that. And then now it's time to mushroom cap this side. This is the tricky part. All right, we're gonna have to finesse this just a little bit. All right, let's go. So we ended up doing a stellar job on that first try. Again, taking some of that goo. I told you this stuff comes out like a fire hose. You gotta be careful. So I'm just going to apply some of this, and then we're gonna be good to go. So now we can remove our channel locks, and you can see how it's just gonna seed back in place. Just like that. Now take your remaining Spectre cord and run it to the back. It doesn't really matter what side you start on. I'm gonna start up here at the pedals, and this should go back pretty easily. So now that you have a basic understanding of how to install both methods, so the internal tubing and the new bushings, you understand the differences and the similarities of both. You can pick whichever one you want to, doesn't really matter to me. Now it's time to install the spool system on the back of the dual acting foot braces that's going to allow you to adjust the tension of your line while on the water. So we need to start off by removing the foot braces via the two molded in inserts. Okay. Take your foot brace off, make sure it's in the free sliding position. So all you have to do is just flip it over like that, slides right off. Find your parts kit, and then you got two of these little spool things here. That's a very technical term, spool thing. Okay, and then each side is left or right specific. You can figure out what side is what just by the way it is. It's either gonna fit or it's not gonna fit. So this is the right foot brace and this is the right spool. So you can see how this side is gonna catch the Spectre cable. That is gonna go on the outside part of the boat like this. Let's go into our hardware bag. You've got two sizes of screws. You're gonna need one of each, so one short and one long, and this is gonna be for the other side. Okay, so you're gonna take that spool, set it on top. Okay, so that shorter one goes here. Make sure to use a Phillips head screwdriver for this because you don't wanna over tighten. Once you've got it locked down just a little bit, take that longer screw and you've got another hole. All right, place that in there, just like that. And you can go ahead and tighten this one all the way down. Once you've got that one tightened down, go back to that other one. And now we have fully installed the spool for the line. So while we've got this foot brace off the track, let's go ahead and install our Spectre cable. Now, sometimes in the injection molding process, all right, you may get little fragments in here that causes the line not to go all the way through. So if that does happen, you can take a 5/64 inch drill bit, okay? It's the same size as the hole that's already there, and all you're doing is just breaking up any debris that's on the inside, just freeing it up, just like that, and then your line should be able to freely go through. So we got it through no problem. I like to use some needle nose pliers for this next part, all right? I'm gonna grab my line that's on the other side now and just pull it through just like that, okay? And since this Spectre cabling has some structure to it, you can manipulate this line how you want to, and it's gonna stay in that position. So for this next part, we're gonna have to go back through the spool that we just installed, right? And then thread it all the way through that piece as well, okay? So it's going through the foot brace, through the part that we just installed, okay? And now we can spool up the excess line. This is the last part here. I'm gonna take my line, thread it through the top of the spool, and then once it's through, you can tie a simple knot. For all you Boy Scouts out there, you can tie, who knows, a pretzel knot, whatever. I really don't care. I'm just gonna tie a little simple one right there. That's all you need. And then you can start spooling up your line. Well, we're pretty much done at this point. All we have to do is put our foot brace back on the track. Again, making sure that it's in the unlocked position, should slide back on nicely just like that. Take both of our 1/4-20 screws, put them back in, make sure we have the right bit on our drill. Went ahead and installed the other side. Now I've got two functional foot braces, both with different internal tubing. So whichever one you choose, make sure you do the same on both sides. Don't do what I did here. This is just an example. So if you do tubing on both sides, okay? I don't want nobody in the comments talking about this is the weirdest install I've ever seen. Pick one and go with it, okay? That was it for part one. That was the steering kit install for the RVR119. Now come back for part two and I will finish the Torqeedo install. So we have to mount our plate on the stern of the RVR and then get the lift and lower line figured out. So appreciate y'all for watching and I look forward to seeing you on the water.